This was a video that I was going to make on Remembrance Day, but I figured since many people were going to use that day as a day of rest since it was a Sunday. Not that I have any problem making videos on a Sunday, but since it's a special day for many people, Remembrance Day, I figured that I'll just wait until I make it, and I was going to make it yesterday, but I had gotten caught up in a lot of things, so I'm making it today. Monday, I also got caught up in a lot of different things, so I'm doing it today. But that speech that Emmanuel Macron, that career-loving president of France who married his teacher, his school teacher, as if he had no one else to marry. I guess the school teacher probably felt sorry for him, and now I can see why. The man's an idiot, and he's unpatriotic at that too, and the French are very patriotic, so I can understand why he's left with the teacher. Nothing particularly special about his looks anyway. He's bug-eyed and he's got these crooked teeth. But he's there saying that nationalism is a betrayal is a betrayal of patriotism or some crap like that. And he's going on saying that nationalism was the cause of World War One, and he even held a peace summit in the north of France with all the different world leaders. Donald Trump was wise not to attend, in which he was trying to think of ways to stamp out nationalism in the world. This sounds to me like it might as well just be a Bilderberg meeting, because that's what they do at Bilderberg meetings. These are a bunch of globalists who get together to try and erase borders, to erase nationalism, to erase that pride in your country, and to promote globalism and one world government, new world order, something that the Arana Nation vehemently fights against. But I think Emmanuel Macron has forgotten his history. I think many of the people in the media have forgotten their history. I think most people have forgotten their history. World War I was not created by nationalists. It was actually created by globalists. And World War I was created because of globalism. Now, for those of you who have picked up a history book within the last few years, halfway through the last century, will know this. And nobody can get past me on history, because I know everything I need to know when it comes to history, especially history on the two world wars and history of the 20th century. When Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Serbia by Princip of the Black Hand, Austro-Hungarian heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, what happened is that all these nations got together, and even before that, all these nations, France, England, you got Germany with the Kaiser, and Russia with the Tsar, they all got together and they formed alliances, globalist alliances. France and England had the Entente Cordiale. England and France. This was something that was created under Edward VII of the United Kingdom. He said he wanted to create an Entente Cordiale with France because he loved France. He loved French women. He loved France more than he loved the United Kingdom. Edward VII. And he went to France, and France and England hated each other at the time. And with his love of France and his understanding of France, he managed to create the Entente Cordiale. And so his cousin, his nephew, the Kaiser, with that mustache of his in Germany, the Kaiser Wilhelm II, said, well, you're going to create an alliance with France. I'm going to try to create one with Russia. Russia said, no, I don't want to create anything with you. So he said, okay, well, I'll create it with Austria-Hungary. And Russia went with France and England to create the Entente Cordiale. And Germany and Austria-Hungary and Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey, created the alliance, or Central Powers, or whatever it's called, Central Powers or something like that. Well, then Archduke Franz Ferdinand dies, and Russia decides it's going to invade Austria-Hungary because they were afraid that Austria-Hungary was going to tear up Serbia, because Austria-Hungary was blaming Serbia for the death of this archduke, this heir to the Austrian throne, and Germany now is at war with Russia, but Germany also wanted to fight France, and France and Germany went into Russia, went into Belgium, went into little old Belgium, tiny little Belgium, can't do anything, couldn't even fight a fly, went into Belgium to go through France. England said, okay, we're going to fight Germany. And that's how World War I started, with these globalist alliances, these globalist alliance. If all these nations had just minded their own business, England had minded its business, if Russia would have just minded its own business, there would have been no war. If they had just, England used to splendid isolation. If England would have just done that, instead of fighting over Belgium, yeah, Belgium is this tiny little country, but personally, I wouldn't fight over Belgium. Belgium is one of the most wicked, back in those days, Belgium was a wicked, evil country. What they did in the Belgian Congo, everybody would thought, is now talking, oh, brave little Belgium, poor thing. Belgium was a wicked, evil, let Germany roll all over Belgium for all I'm concerned, back in those days. Now it's peaceful, everything's good. But back in those days, so if those countries had just minded their own business, not trying to globalize with each other, yeah, they could get along, they could be friendly, but don't try to, create these global alliances and, like what we're trying to do now, and, this European Union and all this sort of stuff. If they'd have just stayed in their own place and stayed in their own lane, there'd have been no World War I, there'd be no poppies, there'd be no Remembrance Day, there'd be none of that now. But instead, with these alliances, and then you got Woodrow Wilson out there in the United States. When World War I was done, he created the League of Nations. That didn't work out. Now we got the United Nations. Emmanuel Macron is trying to pimp the rest of the world into thinking that nationalism was the reason for World War I, when in fact it's the total opposite. It's globalism. It's the alliances. In fact, there was more globalism back then than there is right now. That's a fact. And if it hadn't been for the Entente Cordiale and the Central Powers and the alliances and all this foolishness, there would have been no World War I, Emmanuel. So I don't understand. And Emmanuel talking about nationalism betrays our values, and nationalism, says Emmanuel, is the cause of World War I, and nationalism, Emmanuel says, is evil and all this sort of stuff. So, the fact is that Emmanuel either doesn't know his history or he does know it, but, he's one of the biggest globalists the world has ever seen. He worked for the Rothschilds, which created the bill, which they are the funders of globalism. So that's where he comes from. Emmanuel, I'm going to tell you, Emmanuel is a wicked, evil, and dangerous individual, and we need to watch out for him. And who really looks up to Emmanuel? Our prime minister, the so-called prime minister, the son of Satan, long-haired Mac Daddy, Justin Trudeau. Him and Emmanuel love each other. Emmanuel he may be able to fool you all, he may be able to fool those in the media, but he can't fool me. Emmanuel cannot fool me. I know exactly what he's trying to do, and I know my history, and he doesn't, but I think he does know it, and he's just trying to fool everybody. World War I was created because of globalism, and World War I started World War II. That's exactly what happened. And I could even go as far to say that if there was no World War I, Adolf Hitler would still be sitting there in Austria, in Vienna, a bum on the street selling cheap $2 paintings with nothing to do in his life. He'd have no army to turn to. There'd be no war. That's why. So that's how that World War I was created by globalism, and I think it was created by bankers who wanted to see the European monarchies fall one by one so they could be the ones to take over these European countries. That's exactly what's happening right now, because the kings and the kaisers and the czars, they were the nationalist heads of these nations. They led their nation. They led their armies. They led their militaries. They were the nationalist, populist leaders who everyone looked up to. Prime ministers went and they came and they went, but the kings and the czars and the kaisers were there, and they were the head of Germany. They were the head of Russia. They were the face of it, and everybody looked up to them. And they are all gone because of these wars. And now we have these so-called elected presidents who are run by a bunch of banksters and big businessmen. Globalism. So that's World War I for you. Don't believe this whole foolishness that it was created by nationalism. It wasn't. In fact, if there was nationalism, World War I would never have happened. This is the Arana Nation.